Hi, I'm Greg Corombos. My guest at this time is former Virginia Republican Congressman Dave Brat. He's now Dean of the Business School at Liberty University. We want to talk to him today about what is going on Capitol Hill. It seemed over the weekend that Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. Senate were close to coming together on legislation that would provide relief for businesses and individuals in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing Sunday that she wanted the House to do its own bill and then see where common ground could be found. It's quite clear from a lot of different reports here, Dave, that Nancy Pelosi is not just looking to provide financial relief here. She's looking to advance as many Democratic agenda items as she can, from parts of the Green New Deal to greater collective bargaining power for unions to same-day voter registration to, you name it. It seems like this is quite the wish list here. What do you make of them not letting the crisis go to waste, as we once heard?
They are just looking for any way to hurt the Trump agenda, and everybody knows the economy is the biggest deal. And so they're clogging the arteries, with all the usual constituencies on the left. Instead of, there's one calculation that has to be made, whether we'll get into it. That's how do you weigh the social harm in economics, right? You want to maximize benefit or minimize pain. And the virus is heading at us, and the economic shutdown is also going to be a terrible source of pain to the average American worker. And I don't think the Democrats are aware of this because none of their policies are aimed at what I consider to be the target, and that is the American workforce. If you don't keep that workforce intact, then you need all the social welfare pieces to go along with losing a job, right? Then you need unemployment. Then you need health. Then you need daycare. Then you need the wage. Instead, we should be aiming all firepower. I just saw Art Laffer on the news talking about taking away the payroll tax as a way to incentivize employment. I haven't heard a Democrat mention that. So they are just missing the target widely.
A lot of folks think the best way to keep the economy from crumbling here is to get money directly into the pockets of the American people. Others believe it's important to get it to businesses so they're stabilized and those jobs will exist whenever we come out of this. Is it a combination of both, or is one definitely better than the other here?
We want to, help the folks who have already, lost their jobs and provide that backup relief as well. But Germany has a pretty good track pattern. That's what they're doing. They're aiming everything at the workforce in order to keep people in their jobs and to aim demand there, right? So everybody's looking at the Keynesian, economic cookbook where you just juice up aggregate demand. But you don't want to just throw dollars at it like we did in 2008. We've had a populist backlash probably due to that financial crisis. And we'll see whether our leaders have learned or not. And President Trump, I think, has great intuition. He knows you want to build stuff, right? You don't just throw money out in the wind. And so I'm hoping he aims at that employment side, the construction side, some of the infrastructure side, and not just throwing money in the wind, because that created the populist uprising on the conservative side and on the Democrat side, right? Bernie and Warren, their talking points all had to do with banking and bailing out the wrong people. So if we all bail out the bigs, right? And what I mean by the bigs is airlines, big automobile, big Facebook, big, everything's big now, right? Big military industrial complex, et cetera. If we bail out the bigs and leave the small business person behind again, the American people have lost it. And so I hope the president and the members of Congress are getting good, sound economic counsel.
Congressman, back to what Nancy Pelosi is doing here. And there's obviously a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. If that's what they want to do, they're probably going to be able to pass it. Who knows what common ground could be forged between the House and the Senate. Even if there can be, it's going to take a lot longer than it would have otherwise. But what can House Republicans do here? They don't have the votes. The media generally doesn't listen to them as much when they're upset about something the majority is doing as Democrats get the ear of the media. So what are the options here?
They've got to do a massive push, and the Republican leadership in the House and the Senate better get out onto the TV cameras, because that's what matters right now. And you're right, the mainstream media, it just aims at Republicans. So President Trump has the ability to go straight to the American people, and he does that. Our Republican leadership is going to have to do that. You haven't heard, the big 1, 2, 3 you're not hearing is, number one, the virus came from China, and there was a 2-month delay that put us way behind. And then secondly, the major economic disruption is due to globalization. President Trump has been fighting China and globalization uniquely, the only president in 40 years that has done that. And then to personalize it, in January, China sent its trade delegation over and was in the White House shaking hands with all of our folks when they know about the virus already and the outbreak in China, and we did not know. And so it's at the 30,000 foot. They've inflicted severe virus on us, economic dislocations. 85% of all our manufactured pharmaceutical stuff is in China, along with the military part. So there's a health concern, there's a national security concern, and then to personalize it, they send their folks into the White House to shake hands with the president, the vice president, and everybody when they know they got an pandemic, and it's just unbelievable. Everybody ought to read the book Deceiving the Sky by Bill Gertz. 200 pages of evidence of what China is intending, and they've outlined it all in a couple documents called China 2025 and China 2050. And you read that book, and there'll be no doubt in your mind what's coming at us.
Dave, you're obviously a former congressman, but you're an economist by training. And so one of the questions we're getting now, especially as more and more of these governors say this is going to last months, President Trump hasn't gone to that level yet, although he did say it could be July or August. But folks like Cuomo and Northam say it could be months upon months. And so the question becomes, at what point does the cure or the economic slowdown by keeping everyone home become a bigger burden on the United States than trying to stamp out the virus?
Well, and that's exactly right. And that's the job for economists, right? So you wouldn't know that. I mean, it's amazing when you look at the damage to the American people. I'll just use an analogy, right? I mean, we have national security people, and people have been flying planes over the White House fence and drones, et cetera. The congressional delegation got hit by a truck on the railroad tracks when we got high-speed helicopters overhead. So folks are not doing their basic jobs. Harvard Business School, the first thing you learn in finance is diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. What have our economic elites done? They failed Finance 101. They stuck all of our manufacturing in one basket in China. And so now it's up to our economists to measure very carefully, precisely, put it out. The data is all public. Put out your analysis and let's see who gets it right ahead of time, right? That's the job of economists, is to forecast the pain and the harm from the virus itself, and then the pain and the harm from the economic dislocations. And they can identify the harm from both of those. And then you have to weigh the benefits and the costs publicly so that the public knows, because no politician is going to ever, eat your spinach in public and tell the public what they got to do in the welfare of the country. I ran on the debt and all that stuff. No one cared, right? And so now it's the job of economists to lead, and we'll see about these profiles in courage, whether anyone earns one.
Well, as we close here, let's go back to where we started, and that's not letting the opportunity go to waste. That was Rahm Emanuel back in 2009. Today, we've got a quote from James Clyburn, the Democrat from South Carolina. He's got a lot of attention for essentially rescuing the Joe Biden campaign just before the South Carolina primary. His quote in The Hill is, quote, "This is a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision." How do you interpret that one?
It's the same old, right? And they've coronated Biden. They got rid of Bernie again, and Biden has been best friends with China. You'll never hear any of this, right? We had one of the head of the China CCP in our embassy ready to give us key intelligence information 10 years ago. Joe Biden was on the committee that let him go. He gave the go-ahead, and Hillary Clinton said, "This will make the Chinese happy." I think in quotes. You can all look it up. But it's in the book by Gertz that I referenced, Deceiving the Sky. And so they don't want to run on that, right? President Trump's been strong against China, globalization. The left is all about the pursuit of power, right? They're doing a gun grab. They're coming after the free press. Free speech on campus is under assault. Religion's under assault. You couldn't copy the cookbook from Venezuela any better. The left just is pursuing power for its own sake. They're not assessing the harm to the American people going. I think the American people, this is a wake-up call right here, right? There is a new order of magnitude with this virus and the economic effects like we've never seen. And so hopefully this gets us to refocus and get back to the basics, and the Democrats are leading us off of a cliff as usual.
Well, we'll see certainly where this debate goes from here, but with several Republican senators now quarantined, there's not much of a majority in the U.S. Senate right now.
Yeah.
And so, and with time being of the essence, it's a lot of challenges to overcome at once.
Yep.
Dave, as always, thank you very much for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, great. I just did want to share, Liberty is open, and we have 110,000 students nationwide online. We just want to share words of encouragement for everyone out there. We will be praying for the world at Liberty, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Dave Brat, former Virginia congressman, now dean of the business school at Liberty University. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.